Stories. The Society of Illustrators is absolutely delighted to have Vashti Harrison with us this morning. She's a multi-award winning illustrator. And just to showcase this amazing book, New York bestseller, this has a Caldecott Gold Medal. It has a Coretta King Award, and also it is a National Book finalist. So a really special book, and she'll be reading this book this morning for us. It's a beautiful book. It's an empowering, inspiring book about words and feelings and self-empowerment. So this little girl in the story starts, I love the introduction in this, when you read here in the inside flap, it says she has a big laugh, a big heart, and big dreams, and it was good until it wasn't, and we're going to find out what happens with her. And it's beautifully illustrated, an excellent book for a gift, I would say, to inspire little ones and kids who are going through school. It's a good theme. Also, what I love is the positive words that are on, sometimes there's a surprise on the inside jacket, and we have all these lovely words, all things that you should be thinking about to just tell your friends and loved ones, you're bold, you're creative, you're fun, and tell yourself these words, right? So wonderful book. I'm very excited that Vashti will read this book this morning. But as a special treat this morning, this is why this is a very special Saturday Stories, we are featuring other books that Vashti has written, which I just couldn't choose which one really to feature with her because her books are so amazing. And this series, we've got 2 out of the 3 series. This is Little Leaders, Bold Women in Black History. And it says, meet the little leaders. They're brave, they're bold, they change the world. Featuring 40 trailblazing Black women in American history, Little Leaders educates and inspires us. It relates true stories of breaking boundaries and achieving beyond expectations. Irresistible illustrations bring to life both iconic and lesser-known female figures in Black history, such as abolitionist Sojourner Truth, chemist Alice Ball, pilot Bessie Coleman, poet Gwendolyn Brooks, mathematician Katherine Johnson, activist Angela Davis, and filmmaker Julie Dash. So these are biographies about heroes, and I think this is such a special series. Vashti illustrates these with a beautiful portrait of each person that she's found in history. I mean, what a job, what a task. She had to research, and then she would write a biography here. So Vashti will also read a few of these from both books, and this is the other one, Little Legends, which is exceptional men in Black history. And meet the little legends. They're brave, they're exceptional, they change the world. An important book for readers of all ages. It's engagingly written and beautifully illustrated volume brings to life true stories of Black men in history. Among these biographies, readers will find aviators and artists, politicians and pop stars, athletes and activists. The exceptional men featured include choreographer Alvin Ailey, writer James Baldwin, artist Aaron Douglas, civil rights leader John Lewis, filmmaker Oscar Micheaux, inventor Garrett Morgan, musician Prince, and lawman Bass Reeves. The legends in this book span centuries and continents, and each one blazed a trail for generations to come. So I just wanted to read that back to you because they really are special books, and we're going to see more about these during Vashti's presentation. So a little bit about Vashti. Vashti, she's studied art and also media studies. She's actually a filmmaker as well as an artist. And her studies were in Virginia, where she was born. She went to the University of Virginia. She also went to Cal Institute of Art, which is in California. Her heritage is African-American. Her dad is African-American and her mum has Indian heritage, also Caribbean. So a lot of her influences are from the Caribbean. She has an older sister. She lives in Brooklyn and New York. So we get to see Vashti very often at the Society of Illustrators. She's actually done a lot of programs, and if you are in the area, definitely check out what we've got going on at the Society of Illustrators. which is between Lexington and Park Avenue in Manhattan on 63rd Street. We have many exhibitions in our 4 galleries, and we have lots of programming that goes on, workshops, etc. And so we'd love to bring this particular series to you because we can reach you wherever you are in the world, and we can reach our illustrators wherever they are. Of course, Vashti at the moment is joining us from Florida, so you can join from anywhere. Please do let us know in the chat where you are joining from. If you want to give a shout out to Vashti, I will let her know, and you can say hello to her. I'm going to be fielding your questions during the workshop portion of this morning. And do have your art materials ready. If there are some little ones who might like to have the little printout that was with the registration, just have that printed out. If you haven't already, you can just, a parent could just go print that out if you have a home copying machine. And that could be a fun thing to do during the workshop as well. Vashti will show everybody how she draws the characters in these books. And it's a great starting point to draw all kinds of characters, even yourself, family members. So we're really looking forward to that. What else? Oh, so yes, once you've drawn your characters, we'd love to see them. So please do send them to my email, or you can get in touch with Vashti as well. Follow her on her Instagram at Vashti Harrison, and also check out her website. She's got an amazing website. Vashti has done many, many books, written and illustrated. These are her nonfiction. This is her first picture book, debut picture book, and won all of these awards. Not bad. And she's also, a few years ago, I was really in love with a book that was featured in our original art show. And actually, she was the head juror for that particular year. I think it was 3 years ago, was that right? 2022, I think it feels like. Around that, but just a few years ago, this was I Love You Like Yellow. What a beautiful book that is too. I mean, that would have been another one we could do. So I said to Vashti, let's have you come to the Society of Illustrators also and do an in-person workshop. We supply the materials. You get to also get a signed copy of a latest book. So we'll be working that out in the future with Vashti as well. So, but lovely to have her join us virtually. So those of you who don't live in the New York area can really enjoy this morning presentation with her and learn all about how she's been inspired to do children's picture books. And actually, I would say I've probably covered what I wanted to say for now. Oh, many, many awards. Anyway, I really do feel like if you check out Vashti on YouTube or on her website, you'll really delve into many things that she's done and all the books that she's written. There's been Hair Love and Hello Star. Yeah, I think you've done, what, 20 books now, Vashti? It feels like. Close to a lot.
I think maybe closer to 15.
Or 50, but you know, these types of books, these non-fiction books do take a lot of research, as you can imagine. You know, you've got to get this book right, you've got to get the right words, and you're doing it as a picture book, you know. So I love these books very, very much. And so I'm so glad that we're going to be learning more about how Vashti does these books this morning. So without further ado, over to you, Vashti. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of the Society of Illustrators. I'm a big fan of Saturday Stories. I remember joining in and watching a couple during the pandemic. And I really love this sort of behind the scenes to get a sense of how all these other illustrators are doing their work. And so I'm really happy to do this, and I'm happy to be able to connect with people from around the country and around the world. I'm seeing that there are a few folks from outside of the country, Brazil. There's also around the US, New York, Chicago, Maryland. So thank you all so much for being here. Today, I'm going to share with you a little bit about myself, talk about the work that I do as an author and illustrator. I'm going to read from all 3 of these books. I'm going to give you a little taste of everything. And the main I'll read all of Big, and then at the end, we'll do a kind of multi-step drawing workshop. So you'll learn a lot of different things today, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So you can write your questions into the chat, and then we'll get to them all at the end. So get your pencils and paper ready. But for now, I'll just start. I'm going to share my screen. and give you a short presentation. I muted myself earlier because I am here in Florida with my family, with our 3 cats and a dog, and we are a new dog family. Um, and
Um,
she started barking. So
oh,
you might
okay.
hear some barking in the background.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So I'm sharing my screen now. So this is me. My name is Vashti. I'm an author, an illustrator, and a filmmaker. I tell people all that really means is I love telling stories. I love mixing stories together with pictures. So sometimes that comes out as a book, sometimes that becomes a movie. I just love learning as many tools and techniques as possible to be able to share stories in the best way possible. And these days, I mostly do that through the books that I write and illustrate. But my story begins with this girl. This is me when I'm probably, I don't know, the first or the second grade. And I usually ask young people, can you tell what I'm doing in this picture? I will give you a hint. It is my favorite thing in the world. But I'm also doing my least favorite thing in the world. Can anyone guess what those things are? Okay, my favorite thing in the world is drawing. It looks like I'm sitting at a restaurant, drawing on one of those menus. And one thing I used to do is I wouldn't color in the picture that they wanted you to color in. I would just draw my own pictures on the side. But my least favorite thing in the world is taking pictures. I've never liked taking pictures. And I love that in this one, I'm basically telling the camera, leave me alone. Let me just do my drawings in peace, please. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, that's the vibe I've always kind of projected as a young person. Like, let me just do my art, please. But I've always loved drawing. I've always loved drawing people, um, creating characters and creating worlds for those characters. So I like switching up my style for the story to kind of fit a different tone or aesthetic. So sometimes it can come out looking more like an animation, other times more like a painting. And I love that through my art, I get to explore things that I don't normally get to do. So I am not a person that gets to go on adventures and take naps in the forest with my cat all day. But through my art, I can create a world where that's possible. I am not a cool kid that can ride a skateboard, but through my art, I can create a story where that would have been um, someone I would have liked to be. And most of all, I really like to make my art feel like it's filled with magic and filled with wonder. I really want to pull people in, especially for the books that I illustrate. I really want to draw readers in and make it feel like I'm taking them someplace else. I want the books to feel like they can take you somewhere, and I really want to make the books that you want to go back to and read over and over again. And I've always loved drawing like hair and clothes and outfits. When I was a young person, I would flip through magazines and copy everything. So I kind of built up this internal library of makeup and clothes and hairstyles, which actually became really important for some of the books that I worked on, including Hair Love. So I want to show you an example of one of my drawings. This is a video. It's going to play pretty fast. I don't actually draw this fast, but you'll get a sense of how I might construct an illustration. So I put down a lot of lines. I'm really sketchy. I'm not trying to be very perfect, but I go in really early with my lighting and my shadow to kind of draw your eye in. Um, and I'm really just trying to uh, capture a feeling or a vibe. Look how many times I drew her legs. That was one, two, three, four, five-ish times I redrew her legs. And I show you that because, again, this is not a perfect piece. I'm not trying to be perfect with my illustration. I'm really just trying to capture something that gives off a feeling or an emotion. If you were to look really close, you would see that the um, she doesn't have any fingers on her hands. She doesn't have a nose in the center of her face. But I don't think that really matters because the feeling is still there, the sort of celebration, the magic, the wonder. And that's what I think is so powerful about illustration, about drawing, is you can kind of capture feelings that you don't always have the words for. And that's definitely something I was thinking about for this book that I was working on big. But I want to show you another example because people always ask me, how do you do that? Where do you even get your ideas? And I tell people it's pretty simple. Ideas can come from anywhere. You just have to be open to seeing them. So can you tell what this is a picture of? Usually I have young people shouting at me, it's an apple, it's an apple, it's a
I was going to
green
shout it
apple
out.
on a paper towel. Thank you, Claire. It's a green apple sitting on a paper towel. Yes. So why did I show you a picture of an apple? This is going to be my example of how sometimes ideas really can come from anywhere. So one day I was working, I took a snack break. I got myself an apple, I cut it in half and I ate half of it, and I left the other half sitting on my desk. And as I got back to work, I looked at it a little bit later and I thought, that kind of reminds me of something. So I took a picture of it with my iPad and then I started drawing on top. Maybe you'll see what I saw. You guys know who that is? Maybe I'm
Oh,
too old for this group,
Monsters
but
Inc. Monsters Inc.
yes, exactly. It's Mike Wazowski from Monsters Inc. Uh, so yes, this is my sort of very silly example of how sometimes ideas really can come from anywhere. So you all might do the same thing when you look up at the clouds and you see an image or a character. I just try to do that all the time. I try to keep my eyes open and my mind open to letting ideas come to me. So when the conditions are just right, you can turn an apple into a monster. So I'm really lucky that I get to do this for my job. I write and illustrate children's books. So here are a couple of examples of books I've illustrated, meaning someone else wrote all of the words and then I drew all of the pictures. Now, I like to compare it a lot. I like to compare it to making movies. My background is in filmmaking, so I like to think of the process as a production. So if we were to think of the screenplay as the text, the manuscript of the book as maybe our screenplay, maybe I would think of the author as our screenwriter. Um, and then maybe the publisher could be our director or production company. But I'm doing a lot of the other jobs on this project. So when you make a movie, you need a lot of people to do a lot of different things. So you need actors, you need costume designers, you need set designers. I'm doing a lot of those jobs. So one, I cast the characters. I figure out what do they look like. I'm also a hairstylist and I figure out what are all their hairstyles. I'm also a costume designer. I figure out what are they wearing in each scene. I'm also a set designer and building the backgrounds, thinking about everything that you're going to see on the page. I'm a prop designer. I have to figure out if it's a bedroom, what kind of bed, what kind of toys are on the floor. There's no button I can press and say, fill this room with toys. I have to draw every single one, which means I get to think about every single one. And so they need to be unique to or special to this character. Um, but I'm also a cinematographer. I'm thinking about how are we going to look at the scene? Is it a close up? Is it a wide shot? Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? I'm making all of these sort of creative choices to hopefully transform these words on the page into something that feels almost like movie magic, something that feels like a whole world filled with characters that you can love and want to come back to and read about over and over again. So here are a couple more examples, and there's that book, I Love You Like Yellow. And I love to push myself to try new things. These two books I did with different tools. I mixed together digital and traditional media. And then here are a couple of the books that I've written and illustrated, meaning I wrote all of the words and I drew all of the pictures. So these books are really unique because they are filled with the true stories of real people in history. Now, I saw in the chat some of you have seen these books before and have used the character, used the figures from history in some of your class projects. So I think that's incredible, and I'm so grateful to have been able to create something that introduces or shares incredible people in history because I really love learning about these people. I love kind of hyping up other people. It's so easy for me to kind of get pumped about other people and their stories. It's not always so easy to share your own story. And that's kind of what my book Big Wit was. But these books are really important and special for me and taught me a lot about how to tell stories, how I wanted to share stories for young people. So if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to read two biographies today, and I want to share two artists with you. And these are two artists that I get a lot of inspiration from. So we'll start with Little Leaders, and this is Alma Woodsy Thomas from Little Leaders. So Alma Woodsy Thomas was born in 1891 and passed away in 1978. She was a teacher and a painter. Born in Columbus, Georgia, Alma grew up in a home surrounded by lush landscapes and beautiful plants. In her youth, Alma showed promise in architecture, but she was truly in love with art. She said that when she walked into her first art classroom in high school, it felt like entering heaven. She enjoyed working with children and pursued a career in teaching kindergarten. She taught arts and crafts for several years before attending Howard University. She was the first student in Howard's brand new art department whose founder encouraged her to paint full time. Upon graduation, though, she returned to her first love, education. She devoted her life to children, teaching at Shaw Junior High School for 35 years. She continued painting and pursued her master's degree in art education at Columbia University in New York City during her summers off. She is most often associated with a group of artists belonging to the color field movement, painters who worked only with large shapes or fields of color to express themselves. When she retired from teaching in 1960, Alma concentrated on painting full time. She had a big art show at Howard University, for which she created something totally different from anything she had done before. Inspired by nature, she created paintings with tiny, bright rectangles and repeating shapes. It became her signature style. In 1972, when she was 80 years old, Alma's paintings were exhibited at the Whitney Museum of American Art. This was the first ever solo exhibition of an African American woman artist at one of America's most important art museums. Alma is truly a testament to being dedicated to the thing you love and having the patience to let it grow. So here are a couple of photos of Alma Woodsy Thomas. Um, the only shame about these photos is that they are in black and white, so you can't quite see the bright colors and how much she loved color. And in my illustration, I painted her in a white dress because I really wanted the background to pop. But you can see she liked to wear a lot of patterns, and you can imagine that these are very colorful outfits. And here is a photo of one of her paintings. And I took this photo when I visited the Crystal Bridges Museum in Arkansas. And I really loved this quote that they put on the plaque here. They wrote about her piece, Lunar Rendezvous. By arranging rhythmic brushstrokes in a circle, Alma Thomas responded to the first image of Earth taken from the moon in 1969. Thinking about her love of gardening, Thomas created this painting by arranging the color into mosaic-like patterns, imagining that one of her favorite garden, what might one imagining what one of her favorite gardens might look like from the new vantage point of space. The resulting work uses abstraction to portray her response to technological advances and an intimate methodical meditation on personal passion. So I am a big fan of Alma Thomas, and I really, really love the part about her story that she just took her time to grow her craft and figure out her new styles and experiment. And I think it's really important, especially as artists, as people who like to draw, to know that drawing and your craft doesn't come in one shot and then suddenly you're an artist and suddenly everything is great. I think it is important to know that art making is a journey, and every drawing you make is one step in the journey towards becoming the artist that you want to be. And clearly she's a testament to showing that you can change up your style late in life. You can find new ways to express yourself, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things. So the next one I want to share is from Little Legends, and this is one of my favorite artists of all time. This is Aaron Douglas, who was born in 1899 and passed away in 1979. He was a painter and illustrator. Aaron always knew he wanted to be an artist. As a kid, he liked to follow along with his mother as she drew and painted in watercolors. By the time he was a teen, he was commended as one of the best artists in his school. His journey in art, however, was never easy. At 17, he worked long hours in a machine factory to earn money for college. Then World War I began. Aaron put off graduating to enlist, but at first he was rejected because of his race. His experiences with war, grueling labor, and discrimination stuck with him his whole life, and later they became prominent themes in his paintings. After college, Aaron read a magazine article about a new artistic scene blossoming in New York City that would soon come to be known as the Harlem Renaissance. The cover illustration by Vinald Rice showed a dignified portrait of a famous African American actor. This thoughtful depiction inspired Aaron so much that he knew he needed to move to New York and create art for and about Black people. In Harlem, Aaron joined the community of writers and artists that included Zora Neale Hurston, Augusta Savage, and Langston Hughes, and he studied painting under Vinald. He developed an iconic graphic style influenced by Cubism, Art Deco, and Egyptian art that challenged stereotypes of African Americans with figures that were bold and powerful. His work appeared on book covers and in journals, and in 1925, he illustrated The New Negro, Alan Locke's defining book of the movement, which solidified Aaron as the leading artist of the Harlem Renaissance. Perhaps his most significant works were his large-scale murals, like the four-part masterpiece Aspects of Negro Life, commissioned by the New York Public Library. Aaron filled these colorful paintings with stories, symbols, meaning, and beauty. He created art that he hoped would foster a strong sense of racial pride. He continued that idea in his teaching career, founding the art department at Fisk University. So here are a couple examples of his paintings. Now, the piece on the left is a part of the Aspects of Negro Life, which was a four-part series. And I was so lucky that I got to see some of these pieces at the Met last year. There was a big exhibition of his work, and just the way he uses color, it's so incredible. It's kind of mind-blowing to me. He painted in oils. You know, I love the star pattern in this piece, and I think, oh yeah, I know how I could achieve that in Photoshop. I don't know if I could figure out how to do that on canvas in oils, thinking about the way he uses color. And even some of these aren't like the best representation of how just smart his color pairings are. You can't, I mean, it's incredible to see them in person. So he's a huge inspiration for me. And I love looking at the illustrations he created for these magazines, for books from the Harlem Renaissance. So I love that his graphic style was really a huge part of communicating so many of the themes of the Harlem Renaissance. And I think that's something that's so powerful about illustration. Sometimes folks just think about illustration as just like the side, you know, just the cover of the book, but to be able to capture these big feelings and these big movements is so powerful, especially in a time that he lived in. To be able to pull someone in with just an image and ask them to feel what someone else is feeling is really, really incredible. So he's a big inspiration for me. So just briefly want to talk about some of the art in these books. I love drawing people. I could have drawn each of these famous people to look like themselves, but instead I created my own character, the character I call the little leader character. And to me, these are kids dressing up as these famous people. I really wanted to create a character that would invite young people in and make them say, oh, that kind of looks like me. That could be me. And I wanted it to feel like they were dressing up as these famous people, kind of closing their eyes and imagining themselves in the worlds of these wonderful people. And I wanted them all to be the same because I wanted them to sort of line up. And if you were to kind of flip through the book, you could kind of see a bit of an animation. I wanted it to feel like you could be any one of these people, or you know, with just the flip of the page, you can find something else that can inspire you. And so I have this great coloring page, which you guys have a link to, and you can color it in to draw someone that inspires you. But I know I have a lot of artists in the audience, so I'm going to, at the end, show you how to draw this character. So I wanted to give you an example, though. Here's me drawing my mom with her short hair and her sort of neutral colors. And here's my dad who has this pretty iconic like sideways hairstyle and is always in his gray sweats. But then I changed it because I knew he always has a hat on, so I added his baseball cap at the end. So that's a little bit about little leaders. And like I said before, I love sharing other people's stories. It's really easy for me to get hyped up about other people and celebrate their accomplishments and champion them. It's not the easiest thing in the world to share your own personal stories, but that's kind of what this book Big was. Big was a story that was really inspired by a lot of the things I remember feeling as a young person. Now, it's not the main character in the book doesn't have a name. She's not me, but she does feel a lot of the things that I remember feeling. I wanted to capture some of those really big feelings that kids can have, that adults can have, and put that into a book. And I usually ask kids in the audience, like, have you ever had a really, really big feeling? Sometimes feelings can be so big you don't know what to do with them, that they can kind of just overwhelm you. And that's what I wanted to put in this book. And I wanted to show how this character deals with that. And this book is also about the words that we use with one another, how sometimes words are good and kind and make us feel good, and how sometimes words are not so kind and make us feel not very good. Um, and I wanted to show how this character deals with that. I just want to talk briefly about creating and writing. Whenever I come up with an idea, it's usually through my drawings. It's usually through these little sketches. So usually keep a little notebook around me at all times to kind of jot down ideas. And these little drawings are the very first few drawings I ever did for Big. And they're of this girl sort of trapped in this box, sort of stuck. Now, I wanted to capture that feeling of emotions being so big, you sort of feel stuck and you don't know where to go. And I didn't want to write a sad story, but I did want to figure out, how does this girl get here and where does she go from here? So I knew that I had something that I wanted to work with. So I draw and I redraw until the story starts taking shape. Um, and really early on, I knew it would be super powerful to show that character making more space for herself. Now, initially, I thought it would be so cool and so powerful to see her in this power pose and have the pages fold up. And when I told the publisher this is my idea, and they were like, "Oh, we love it. That's a great idea. We can't do that. We can't make the pages fold out, but we can make them fold out." So I had to go back and sort of rethink about the idea and figure out a way that we could do the double gatefold with the pages folding out. And that's sort of what led me to the idea of, like, maybe she kind of understands that she's in a book. And if she can see that she's in the book, maybe we can move the words around and maybe she can hand back the words. So it becomes this sort of meta book, a book about a book. The person knows that they're in this book. Um, um, and so because this is about a book about the words that we use with one another, I knew I didn't want there to be too many words in it at all. I wanted to be able to communicate what she's feeling through the illustrations. So as an artist, I have lots of tools. I have lighting, I have composition, I have texture, and I have color to help me communicate what she's feeling. So was there a color you all saw a whole lot of in this book? Because there was a main one. I chose pink to be the main color to represent this character. So when she is growing and dancing and feeling fully free, we see glimpses of a really bright pink. That to me represents her future and her potential. But then in the sad moments, that pink color goes away entirely. Then at the end, when she's able to make more space for herself, that bright pink color comes back again. Now, again, she's still growing, she's still changing, she's still figuring out who she is. So, um, we don't end the book in this super bright, saturated pink. It's sort of, we see glimpses of it, but it's still mixed in there because everyone changes. Everyone is still figuring themselves out. So I think that's what I wanted to be really clear for this character. And at the end, I talked a little bit about why I chose those colors, how in color psychology, pink is associated with gentle love, tenderness, and nurturing, and how these are all things that this character deserves. So I have this really great coloring page. Just like the other coloring page, you guys could print it out and probably do a really good job coloring it. But I want to show you how to draw the character. So I'm going to switch over to my drawing app here. And we're going to bring together our two characters. So we have little leaders and we have the character from Big. So I'm going to bring together those elements to give you kind of building blocks you might use for drawing a character. So whenever I start drawing something complicated, anything complex, I like to break it down into simple shapes, shapes we all know how to draw. So if you have a couple pieces of paper, this one is just going to be a sort of practice messy one. So you can draw a circle, a square, and triangle if you want to just kind of like get warmed up. And just like that very first ballerina I drew, I put down a lot of lines. I'm not trying to get it perfect in one go. I'm just being pretty light with my pencil and just feeling it out. So circle, a square, and a triangle are going to be my building blocks. Now, whenever I meet someone new and tell them I'm an illustrator, one of the very first things they always tell me is, ugh, I can't draw. All I can draw is a stick figure. But what they don't know when they tell me that is that a stick figure is actually a very powerful tool for constructing a drawing, especially for drawing figures. So I want to draw my character with her arms out and her leg out in this sort of ballet pose. So if I were to do that with my stick figure, all I would do is sort of just move some of the pieces around. So one leg down, one leg out, and those arms out. So that's the same character, but just the pieces moved a little bit. But now we've got a little bit more movement happening. And so I know that, you know, hands could go there, feet could go here. And now I really have the sort of skeleton I might need to draw my character. So I'm going to bring together my circle, my square, and my triangle with my sort of stick figure as my guide to draw my character. So how am I going to do that? I'll draw my stick figure up here in the corner just to so you can see it. So I'm going to start with my circle. And it's better if it's not a perfect circle, better if it's like a little squish. Does not need to be perfectly round. I'm going to draw a square, and this is going to be my body, my torso. And so it's going to be sort of off to the side and turned a little bit. So imagine this is my stick figure. It's going to go like that. I don't need those lines because I can kind of just remember this piece over here. So that's my torso. And I'm going to use some triangles to be my arms and legs. One there, one arm here, one arm there. Now that's pretty simple. I know everyone can draw this. And I don't know about you, it's already looking like a person to me. What do you guys think? So again, this is going to be my skeleton. From here, I know where everything else is going to go. I know that we're going to have a hand here. We're going to have a hand here. We're going to have a foot here and another foot there. So I can make this a little bit lighter. I might do that all in pencil and go over top of it with marker, or I might do it on one piece of paper and then place another piece of paper on top. But however you like to do it, I'm just gonna make it a little bit lighter so we can still see it, but then I can draw on top. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the face. So when I draw the little leader character face, I always start with kind of a face shape that's a mixture of a circle and a square. You can probably tell the face for the little leader is really simple. I like them to be simple enough that with just a few details, like a different hairstyle or different clothes, you can really transform it into anybody. So it really only is one thing that makes up the little leader's face. It is the letter C. So I draw my C's kind of very rounded. I'm going to make it sort of like a very loose C, maybe like moon shaped, just sort of imperfect C. So I'm going to take my C shape and turn it on its side and place two of them to become my eyes. So just making them a little bit thicker so you can really see it. So we've got two C's as eyes. I'm gonna flip that shape upside down to make some eyebrows, a little one in the center for a nose, and then I flip it one more time to make a smile. So again, this is a lot like a building block because now I have a lot that I can do with this. Like I say that I keep the little leader, I draw their eyes closed because I like to imagine that they are kind of closing their eyes and imagining themselves in the worlds of these wonderful people. But you know, if I added another C on top, I can open up those eyes and I can add some eyeballs. I could add some more C's to be eyelashes. I could add C's to add a mouth or lips. And I can add C's to add ears. I can add C's to add hair, all kinds of things. Really simple. So sometimes that's all drawing is just like breaking down complicated things into simple shapes. So I'm just gonna do the character's face just like that. I'm gonna use my C's. So I'm gonna go back to my figure structure here. Let me make it a little bit darker. So I want my character's face. I want her to be facing this direction. I want her to be looking that way. So, you know, I could draw my C's just like this, but she's sort of facing the camera. I want her to face the other direction. So I'm going to imagine that there is an imaginary line, vertical line down the center of the face, and a horizontal line across. And I'm going to put my character's features on those lines. I'm going to use this as my guide. So my first C is going to go here on that horizontal line. The next C's are going to go above and know that the nose goes in the center. And my mouth is going to go down there. So I'm going to use that guide to turn this face into different directions. So we're going to think about this not as a circle anymore, but as a sphere. So if I were to move that line different directions, sort of feels like this one is facing this direction. This one is facing this direction. This one's facing forward. So for my main drawing here, just make this a little bit bigger so you can really see it. I want it to be facing this way.
Vashti, I'm just going to say a few things. This is so riveting and I hate to interrupt, but I just want to let you know that we've got so many beautiful comments and so many people enjoying this and being so inspired and riveted and relating to the story. We have children who have been inspired to use characters from your Little Legends and Little Leaders books. Just so many wonderful comments and everyone joining from as far as Brazil. We have regular participants. We have new participants. It's all so exciting this morning. You have a question. What is your favorite drawing tool and your favorite program app? And that's anonymous. So thank you for your question.
So I really like drawing digitally. I think I'm fastest digitally, but as an artist, I really will draw with anything. If you leave crayons in front of me, I will draw with them. And I am notorious for having so many art supplies. So my go-tos, I think these days have mostly been working in Procreate, which is the app that I'm working in now, on the iPad. And I like to sort of make my own pencils and brushes in here. For big, I worked mostly in Procreate, but I created my own brushes by scanning in textures of pastel. So I filled up pages and pages of pastel textures and used that to sort of build up the backgrounds for big and create my own brushes to give her skin and her hair a really nice texture. These days, when I work traditionally, the things that I've been sort of drawn to the most have been colored pencils. I really love building up the texture with lots and lots of layers of pencils and using different solvents to kind of blend them out. So I love experimenting with linseed oil and Gamsol with colored pencils on like Bristol paper. And I really like Neocolor crayons. They're very much like regular, like Crayola crayons, but they just got a lot more pigment in them. So they're really fun and juicy to play with. And then I really like acrylic markers, but again, I like lots of art supplies.
Yes, we all love going to art stores, don't we? All illustrators, artists. It's like a candy store, a big sweet shop. So we have some more lovely questions. So Megan would like to know, how long was the creative process from your initial thought to officially publishing Big? Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. So Big is a book that is deceptively simple. So it might seem like it came together pretty quickly, but it took a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and really a lot of processing because I was sort of dealing with a lot of the emotions that I've never really shared with other people before. So the first time I sketched those little drawings of the character was probably in the fall of 2019. And I started sort of really developing the story around spring 2020 during the lockdown. And I finally had it all pulled together in a format that felt like I could share it with other people, with my agent and my editor by December of 2020. So it really took me a lot of time alone by myself, really processing the ideas and really just like writing them out to get it to the point that it felt like I was ready to share it. So, that's partially the creative process, but that's also part of the like emotional process. It's really a strange thing to share personal things in books and put them out for other people to experience. So it took a long time, and then the illustration process, it really took all of 2021 and part of 2022, and the book didn't come out until 2023. So it's quite a while to really develop something that there's
And
less than 150 words in the book. And
yeah, it's very typical. This is why we bring these Saturday stories to our audience, so they know that there's a lot that goes into picture books. And we showcase original art in our OA show every year. The original art show has original art from picture books, so you get to see that too. And yeah, there's on average, the regular picture book is 32 pages, and you have to create a story. And actually, I would think that Vashti's filmmaking background really is helpful. As you could see, she's thinking about all of the elements that go into making the book, all the different people that would be making a film. She's doing all of that. So we also have some joint questions, which I'll just share with you. So Rashida has said some wonderful things related very much to Big, and really loves your art. And she said, what advice would you have for people starting later in life without the benefit of time and drawing since childhood, to develop skills in illustration, the resources? Yes, actually, there are. So she's, asking, would you suggest using website resources and doing online courses? Do you recommend anything else? And she felt she learned so much in this seminar this morning. And we also had another question from an illustrator asking, do you have advice for illustration students who would like to get into the children's picture book industry? So thank you for your question.
Yeah, so one thing that is important to my story is that I didn't grow up thinking I was going to become an illustrator. I really liked drawing when I was young, but I really stopped drawing when I got to college, and I was kind of scared to try to follow art, and so I really pushed myself to take econ classes. I thought I was going to be a political and social thought major at the University of Virginia, and then eventually go to law school because I didn't think that anyone grew up to become a drawer for their job. So it's like I have to put that behind me. But clearly I was drawn to art, and as much as I tried to get away from it, it was the thing that kept pulling to me. And so I took some drawing classes. I took a like art history class for fun, and that was sort of like my gateway back in. And in college, I started taking film classes, and I really loved being able to express myself through cinema. I really loved learning about film and then breaking down film and making films. So all that time, I stopped drawing. When I went to grad school, I did 3 years of grad school and made films. And it was in my final year that I said, I'm paying all this money to go to this fancy grad school. I'm going to take just a drawing class just for fun. And so this was the first time I started drawing in a long time, and I was not very good. I really had lost whatever, I thought that, I'm good at drawing, so I should be able to just pick right back up where I was. And that was clearly not true. What was very apparent to me is that drawing is a skill that you have to practice. And if you practice, you will get better. And if you don't practice, your skills will essentially atrophy. It's sort of like running. You have to, keep up and keep training. And it just became very clear to me, it's not that I had some sort of talent that other people don't have. Really, drawing is one of those things that anybody can learn and can get better. So if you are interested in developing your illustration skills, it really is just about putting in the time, putting in the work. There's a great quote from the um, animator and educator from the Walt Disney Studios, Walt Stanchfield, who said, we all have 10,000 bad drawings in us. The sooner we get them out, the better. And I like the way that sort of posits that, the bad drawings aren't part of us. They just are part of the process, and you have to get them out before you can start making the good ones. And that's essentially the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. You just have to put in the time and put in the work. And, some people, when it comes to drawing, you know, it can be really frustrating when it doesn't come out exactly how you think it should or how you want it to. And so people often give up. And that, often that shows me, I see so much power and so much respect in the folks that keep working at it, because it is kind of intimidating and frustrating when it doesn't come out right. But It is part of the process. So when I was a kid and I would just throw out a drawing when it didn't look right, like I get it. I empathize, but I also know as an adult artist, those days still happen and you just got to keep moving forward. So I promise if you are interested in developing your skills, no matter what, where you are in life, no matter where you are in your career, if you practice and you put in the time, you will get better. So it is possible. And for any young person that's interested in developing their work, their way into the world of publishing, um, I think the most important thing in terms of building your portfolio is, um, really showing work that you're passionate about. Like, I think when you look at people's work, you can tell what they enjoy and what they're sort of, sometimes if people put things in their portfolio just because they think they're supposed to have it, like, don't put anything in your portfolio that you don't love, that you don't like, I don't like drawing vehicles. I'm not going to, I might force myself to practice drawing vehicles every once in a while, but you know what? I'm not going to, um, put that in my portfolio because I don't think it's what I'm strongest at. I really like drawing people, so that is what I will focus on. But you know, I will have a diversity in my types of illustrations. I will have line work. I will have black and white illustrations because, a lot of middle grade and, chapter books don't have full color illustrations. I might do some historical people to show the different costumes. I really like drawing hair and clothes, so I'm going to have a lot of those kinds of different things in my portfolio. And just, developing, you know, people always ask, like, how do you figure out your style? How do you get your style? And drawing figuring out your own personal style really just comes from drawing a whole lot. It just is the way you like to draw. And the only way you get that is by just doing a ton of drawings. And um it's really it just is all about the time and the effort put into it. And I think it's just about putting your work out there. When I was getting into this industry, Instagram was kind of the place. It was kind of newer, so I started really early. I started developing a following, and I just kind of tailored my art for social media, but I still kept things for myself. I try to use social media as a marketing platform for myself so that people, one, knew me, knew my style, knew my work, and then by the time that I was able to get books, they knew that they would want to buy books from me because they liked the work that I made. Instagram may not be the platform for that anymore, but there's going to be other ways to do that and to connect with artists or art directors and people in the publishing industry. So I think the key to sort of having uh I don't know, carving out a space for yourself in this industry is going to come from, developing your own personal tastes and your own style and your own approach to drawing. So I hope that's clear. I didn't get to kind of clarify exactly what I did in my drawing, but I'll just play it back for you. I think it'll play. Can you see that? No, it's not going to replay.
It
But
looks, yeah.
I used my skeleton guide here to create my outline. I drew my face sort of on those guides, my horizontal and vertical line there, and uh, I just kind of outlined all of my triangles to turn them into feet. And I always I like to share my favorite part. So I'll go back and do this because I think that's one of the fun things to leave this with. But I drew her waistband around her body right there. And the way I draw the skirt is by drawing a squiggly line. And I draw that around her waistband and I just connect the top parts of that squiggle sort of like a flower. Think of them sort of like petals. And those are going to be the ruffles of her skirt. And so I just keep adding more ruffles because it's got lots of layers. Um, so I didn't get to give you all of the steps, but you can play it back and watch how I drew it. And then I just started adding my color, and I'm going to add a little bit of lighting here for you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Vashti. It's really been an absolute pleasure having you this morning, and very informative and so beautifully told your story. Just to have our author illustrator read the books and tell you the behind the scenes that went into them just makes them all the more meaningful. These are books that we treasure. They're forever books to have in your home libraries. Any teachers who might be here, fantastic books to be doing programs with. I was actually thinking, Vashti, how about a book about author illustrators? So,
Oh, that would be perfect.
right, we need that. So wonderful program this morning. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. And most of all, for you, Vashti, joining us and sharing all of your wisdom and heartfelt passion for what you do. We feel it.